Some islands look beautiful. Seychelles looks almost impossible. Granite boulders rising from white sand. Water glowing shades of blue that barely seem real. Hidden coves. Jungle-covered peaks. And beaches that often feel untouched. It doesn't feel like a destination. It feels like another world. A world that challenges everything you thought you knew about island paradise. Most people imagine Seychelles as luxury and beaches, but this island nation is much more. Wild nature, ancient granite landscapes, remote islands, and some of the most surreal scenery on Earth. Landscapes that photographers spend years trying to capture. Ecosystems that exist nowhere else on the planet. Horizons that seem to blend ocean and sky into something dreamlike. If you love discovering extraordinary places, subscribe. There's much more ahead. Anse Source d'Argent. Start at Anse Source d'Argent, and immediately, Seychelles feels unreal. Massive sculpted granite boulders, soft white sand, shallow turquoise water. It doesn't look like a beach. It looks like a fantasy, like something an artist might imagine, but nature shouldn't be able to create. And many travelers say this may be the most beautiful beach they've ever seen. It's easy to understand why. The boulders seem placed by design. Each one weathered into smooth curves over millions of years. Each one creating natural frames for the endless ocean beyond. The sand feels impossibly fine beneath your feet. The water shifts through countless shades of blue and green. And somehow it all comes together in a way that feels both harmonious and surreal. People often stand here simply staring, taking it in, trying to believe it's real. But the islands only get wilder. La Digue. Then there's La Digue, and everything slows. No rush. Quiet roads. Bicycles. Palm-fringed coves. Granite cliffs meeting the sea. Here Seychelles feels timeless, like the modern world hasn't quite arrived, or decided it didn't need to. The pace becomes part of the experience. You cycle past vanilla plantations, traditional Creole houses with their colorful shutters, local families tending small gardens, chickens wandering freely, and everywhere that same sense of unhurried existence. The beaches here feel more intimate somehow, less about grand vistas, more about discovering your own hidden corner of paradise. A private cove between granite giants, a stretch of sand where you might be completely alone, water so clear you can count fish from the shore. And that calm becomes part of its magic. A reminder that paradise doesn't need to shout. Sometimes it just whispers. But there's a side of Seychelles few people expect. Jungles and peaks. Go inland. And suddenly, it isn't just beach paradise anymore. Dense forests, mountain viewpoints, rare wildlife, mist drifting through tropical hills. Now Seychelles feels almost prehistoric. Wild, untouched, ancient. And that surprises people. Because beaches don't usually come with cloud forests, or endemic species found nowhere else on Earth, or hiking trails that wind through vegetation so thick it blocks out the sun. The morn Seychelles rises above everything, cloud-wrapped most mornings, offering views that stretch across entire island chains when it clears. Below its peaks live creatures that have evolved in isolation for millennia. Rare birds, giant tortoises that have outlived generations of human visitors, plants that scientists are still cataloging. The trails here demand attention, not because they're particularly difficult, but because every turn reveals something unexpected. A waterfall hidden in dense green, a viewpoint where ocean suddenly appears through the trees, the calls of birds you've never heard before. And somehow this jungle wilderness makes the beaches feel even more special, because you realize Seychelles isn't just one ecosystem. It's many, all layered together in impossible proximity. Quick question: would you rather explore Seychelles' hidden beaches or its jungle mountains? Tell me in the comments. But Seychelles still hides islands that feel even more unreal. Remote islands. Then come the outer islands. Tiny fragments of paradise scattered across the Indian Ocean. Some barely inhabited. Some feeling almost untouched by time. Places with names most people have never heard. Alphonse, Des Roches, Farquhar. Each one its own universe. And here Seychelles becomes something even rarer. Not luxury. Wilderness. ocean wilderness. These islands exist for different reasons. Some protect nesting seabirds in numbers that darken the sky. Some harbor coral reefs so pristine they serve as blueprints for what healthy oceans should look like. Some simply sit alone in endless blue, reminders that Earth still holds places beyond casual reach. Getting here takes planning. Small planes, longer boat journeys, arrangements made weeks in advance. But that distance creates something valuable. Separation from everything familiar. A chance to exist in a rhythm dictated only by tides and sun. To walk beaches where your footprints might be the only ones that day or that week. And many who make the journey say that remoteness becomes part of the magic. Because in a connected world, true isolation feels increasingly rare, increasingly precious. But one thing defines Seychelles more than anything: the granite boulders. Those granite formations, ancient, sculpted, otherworldly, and nowhere else looks quite like this. They make Seychelles instantly recognizable. In photographs, in memories, in stories travelers tell years later, and almost impossible to mistake for anywhere else. That's rare. Most tropical islands share similar palms, similar beaches, similar water. But these granite giants belong only here. Geologists explain they're among the oldest exposed rocks on Earth, over 750 million years old. Remnants of when Seychelles was part of a supercontinent, before oceans separated it into this scattered archipelago. But knowing their age doesn't quite capture what they feel like. Standing next to them, running your hand over stone smoothed by countless centuries of waves, watching how they frame the sea beyond in compositions too perfect to feel accidental. They turn every beach into sculpture gardens, every cove into a gallery, and they create a visual signature that lingers long after you leave. Because once you've seen Seychelles, you'll never mistake anywhere else for it. And then there's something travelers always remember: light, water, stillness. The light, the colors, the stillness. Sunrise over empty beaches, water shifting from turquoise to sapphire. Moments where the world feels almost silent, where the only sounds are gentle waves and rustling palms, where time seems to slow, or stop, or cease mattering entirely. And many travelers remember that feeling, as much as the scenery, perhaps more. Because beauty you can photograph, but that sense of peace, that moment when everything stills, when you stop planning and simply exist, that's harder to capture, harder to share, but somehow easier to remember. The way light moves across water here feels different, richer somehow, creating transitions between shades that seem to have no name. Early mornings bring a golden softness that makes everything glow. Midday reveals colors at their most intense, so vivid they almost hurt to look at. Evenings paint the sky in layers, peach and violet and crimson, reflecting in water so still it becomes a perfect mirror. And in those moments, many travelers realize something. They came for paradise, but they found something deeper. A kind of peace that feels increasingly rare, increasingly necessary. So what makes Seychelles unforgettable? It's the contrast. Granite worlds, dream beaches, jungle peaks, hidden islands, wild ocean, all in one place that often feels beyond imagination, all existing together in impossible harmony. Beach paradise that transforms into mountain wilderness within minutes. Luxury resorts sharing space with pristine nature reserves. Ancient geology meeting living ecosystems. Isolation that somehow feels welcoming rather than lonely. And maybe that's why Seychelles lingers. Not just in photographs, not just in memories, but in some deeper place. Because it doesn't feel merely beautiful. It feels otherworldly. It feels like discovering Earth can still surprise you, still offer places that challenge what you thought possible, still hold corners that feel untouched despite centuries of human presence. And in experiencing that, something shifts. Your sense of what islands can be, what beauty can mean, what travel can reveal. If you enjoyed exploring Seychelles, subscribe for more journeys like this. More places that challenge expectations. More destinations that feel like other worlds. And tell me, what part of Seychelles would you want to see first? The sculpted beaches? The jungle mountains? The remote outer islands? Or maybe you'd simply want to find a quiet cove and let Seychelles reveal itself slowly, at its own pace, in its own time.